Welcome back. We are here, episode 1, officially, unofficially, episode 1 or episode 2, whichever way you want to slice the cake. We've got a lot to discuss on today's episode. Good news, we don't have a king anymore in America. No king. We did it. Some people did it over the weekend. So no more kings. We'll get to that. We'll also talk about the government shutdown. We're now on day 21 as of recording this episode of the government shutdown. So that, no king, and much, much more, we'll dive into it today. Welcome back. I'm Bryce Wheeler, and this is We the Future. All right, let's dive right into it. Like I said, we've got a lot to discuss and go over. Now, I don't know if you saw the news, but there was this big event over the weekend. Second time it's happened this year where a bunch of people got together to protest exactly what we needed to change here in America, which was Donald Trump is a king or was a king, but not anymore. Because a bunch of people got together and decided that they were going to hold a rally that they claim was grassroots in its foundation, which we'll get to that later. In short, it worked. We don't have a king. President Trump even announced that over the weekend, right after the rally, that he's no longer king, that they did it, right? Now, for those of you who are history buffs like me, I remember a specific date back in July of 1776 where we already moved past having a king. Now, I could be wrong. You can fact check me. Comment in the comment section if I'm wrong. But last time I checked, we didn't have a king. Not for, some 250 years, right? So lots of stuff to get into today, and I had to write it all down. There's too much good stuff that we have to talk about. So let's just start there, okay? The No Kings Rally. We had the first one during the summer. It happened all over the country. Had the second one happen this past weekend. I'll be completely honest with you. I feel like I'm tuned in or clocked into the political side of America when it comes to social media. I didn't even realize that it was happening until I had driven past it here in Utah. Saw a couple people holding some signs that were ironic, which we can talk about. And yeah, they had a rally and it seemed to work. So, but I think it's important as we start talking about these topics of conversation, especially with what's happening in our country and in our state. If you study law, if you study criminology, you always are told, right, on Law and Order, you're always told to follow the money, right? If you follow the money, it leads to the base or the root of the corruption. It leads to the root of the cause. It leads to, the grand wizard of Oz who's behind that curtain, right? We're able to figure out what's happening. So let's follow the money, right? Now, this is stuff that my job is to do the research, right? My job is to provide the facts, to provide my opinion, and to present it to you, the viewer. I want you to do your own research. I don't want you to just have to take what I'm saying for fact. But we've done our homework, right? We've figured out a couple different things for you guys. And so as we talk about this, I want you to really pay attention, because in the world that we live in, there's always a facade. There's always something that is face value, right? You're supposed to take it as this. Why? The mainstream media portrays it that way. You're not supposed to question. You're supposed to follow blindly. You're just supposed to say yes. And then, continue in, a line. Continue listening. Continue to not ask questions. So we're going to find that this grassroots rally that happened twice now of this No Kings rally, it's not really as grassroots as they would like it to seem. Okay, so let's dive into it. Now, when we look at this, let's define this. Grassroots, to start there. Grassroots is going to be something that's spur of the moment, right? You've got tape. I've got some sticks. You've got a Sharpie. He's got some whiteboards. Let's put it together and let's, write some cool chants or slogans on the whiteboard, and then we can go out and march around on town square. That's grassroots, right? I'll donate $50. Can you donate $50? Okay, let's put together our money and let's go out and make this happen. That's not what this was. This rally that's now happened twice, both times have been funded or has been funded by billionaire elites. Billionaire elites. We'll have to re-emphasize that, restate it, okay? Billionaires who the protesters are against are funding the movement that the protesters are then protesting against the billionaire. It's this weird, complex, delusional cycle that I feel like I've got an answer to, which is this, okay? So an investigation by Fox News, as well as by Peter Schweizer, he found that George Soros, we all love big old George, right? George Soros, through his Open Society Action Fund, gave $3 million to a group called Invisible. And Invisible, for the No Kings rally, is the primary organizer. Okay, so keep track at home, grab your calculator, grab a pen, grab some paper. We're going to do a little bit of math. So he gave $3 million through his Open Society Action Fund. But then on top of that, through his Open Society Foundation, gave the same primary organizing group, Indivisible, gave him another $7.6 million. So if you do the math real quick, 3 plus 7.6, what does that get? 10.6, over $10.5 million. George Soros, considered a billionaire elite in the country, gave to this primary founding group or this primary organizing group to fund the grassroots movement of the No Kings rally. I mean, it's laughable. Right? And here's the thing. People that are on the street with the sign with Trump with a crown and an X over him, or a sign that says No Kings, or, impeach President Trump, those people have no idea who's behind the funding. They have no idea who's behind the funding. They got a text message from their friend that just said, you want to go march around and yell about some random stuff that we know nothing about? Cool, let's do it. Saturday, meet me there at 10 o'clock. That's exactly what happened to 95% of the people that showed up to these rallies. So let's continue, right? There's an empire called Arabella, okay? Arabella is a $1 billion per year dark money empire that launders donations from the ultra wealthy donors to grassroots activism organizations, right? For example, the Bill Gates Foundation, geez, we love Bill. The Ford Foundation, cool. The Rockefeller Network, right? There's no corruption here. Look elsewhere, please. All of those organizations, all of those billionaire elite status companies launder money through Arabella to then provide it to grassroots organizations. Now, the question as I started looking more into this, you might have the same question, is why? Why would a billionaire fund an organization that is in direct conflict to that billionaire? Why would they do that? Why would they pay money out of their pocket to go towards people marching around yelling that they don't like billionaire elites like Trump, as well as those other people? Why would they do that? Okay. Well, in my opinion, it's because of a couple of different things. It's not about grassroots activism. It's not about yelling super, super loud so that, those who oppose your views can't hear you, even though that seems something that they're really good at doing. It's about dismantling power. Dismantling power. It's about rearranging the power and controlling the narrative. And if you can do both of those, you're in the driver's seat, right? So it's not grassroots activism. Let's call it for what it is. It's turf. It's artificial, manufactured turf. The stuff you see that's always green, yeah, it's that stuff. It's not the true grassroots stuff that you have to take real good care of, water, fertilize, make sure you mow it. It's turf. That's all these people are a part of. Okay? Now, all of these organizations that I listed, right? The Bill Gates Foundation, the Ford Foundation, the Rockefeller Network, you can find online what these groups are about, what they're doing. You can find it through documents, IRS filings, annual reports. You can even find it through public statements that they've given. They are organizing their money, funneling it through a different company, and then allowing it to be distributed to run towards activism, right? All in the name of equality and justice and fair rights for everyone. Okay? Now, here's the thing. This organization, the No Kings Rally, when you're hiring publicists, data firms, communication specialists to make sure that it seems spontaneous in nature, you're not a grassroots organization. You're just somebody that has actually tediously planned, gotten big backed donors to then come help spur on and support and promote and fund the activism that you're causing or that you're trying to cause, right? Now, the funny part is, and hopefully they get this, hopefully they see the irony behind this, is on the posters for the No Kings Rally, they have all of their sponsors. And they even have, get this, I know this will come to a shock to many of you, they have the Communist Party as a sponsor for the rallies. Explain to me how that's not the most ironic thing that you've ever seen. Now, the other ironic thing is, yeah, you probably saw some young folks out there that were just yelling about Trump because, remember, Trump's the boogeyman. We don't like the boogeyman, so we have to yell and scream really, really loud, throw a tantrum that he got elected democratically to be our president. Remember that. Most of the people that were at these rallies are older generations, right? Generations older than me, generations older than my parents. They're people with nothing to do, people who back when they were young, they tried this same spiel. They tried socialism. They tried communism. They tried to push those agendas, and it didn't work then. So what are they doing now? Well, they all escape and they decide that, there's nothing good going on at their retirement home. So let's run down the street and let's start yelling really loud that we don't like Trump. That's exactly what they're doing. And so hopefully we see more of that generation and less of the younger generation, because we're all waking up to the bullcrap that we see on the news. The people that we see on the street realizing, you know what? Yeah, your sign says that Trump's a king, but last time I checked and thought through this critically, that's not the case. Not the case at all. He's a democratically elected president who went through the entire process, who got all the electoral college votes that he needed to then become our president. Now, why? Let's jump back, because I'm all over the place, because this is just mind-boggling. It baffles my mind that this is a conversation that we have to have, but we do, right? Because you're not going to hear any of this on the mainstream media, but this is important for you as a viewer, you as somebody who wants to be, awake in this world that we live in. It's important for you to know all of these things, okay? So I'm going to control my speech and try not to ramble as much. Let's talk about a little bit more about why they would want to fund this movement, okay? And I break it down into an equation, okay? If you can fund the activism, if you can then in turn shape the ideas and the conversations that we have every single day, then you can slowly shape and control the solutions that we then accept, It's about control. That's why billionaires like George Soros and other big old foundations, that's why they fund the No Kings rally. That's why they fund Antifa. That's why they fund all of these big events that you see on the news with cars burning and people yelling and picket fences. It's because they are funding to control the narrative. If they can control the problem that you see, they can then offer the solution that you then accept as, yeah, let's go ahead. Let's do that. Let's go ahead with that solution. Now, if in all of this, we see a common thread, a common theme. And the theme is this: if we can convince free people that their current system is wrong, you can control the new one that we accept. If you can control that we don't like capitalism, which for some reason, hopefully minority of the rising generation thinks is a problem, capitalism. If you can convince them that that's the problem, you can then offer the solution. Well, why don't we try socialism? Or why don't we try communism? Right? You think you have a king now with President Trump? Wait until you find out what communism is, right? Why don't we call North Korea, see how those people are feeling about their current situation, right? Why don't we grab our textbooks and read a little bit about, world history and what happened during the World War II days, right? How well communism is working out for countries that are still trying to, put it on and, wear it for a few years and nothing goes well. If you can control the narrative, if you can control the problem, if you can tell you and me that your freedom you're experiencing right now, I hate to break it to you, but you're not free. You're not. If you can control that and convey that message, you can then say, hey, why don't we get rid of this guy? This Trump dude? Let's rally. Let's call on our elected officials to impeach him, get him out of office. Then we can throw in someone else, right? Which here's there's irony all around you. Just look around, throw a dart at the wall with your blindfold on, and you'll find some irony. Here's a snippet. These people that are yelling about no kings, let's talk a little bit about their officials that they elect, or their officials that they look to as their, prime examples, or people that they look up to as their heroes. Okay, let's try this one on for size. Kamala Harris. Kamala Harris never was elected as the primary candidate for the Democratic Party. Sleepy Joe Biden realized that on the other end of running again for president, there was an endless supply of beaches, bike rides, and ice cream. So he snuck off for that option. So they threw Kamala Harris into the driver's seat and said, here she is, vote for her. She's the one. If you're a Democrat, you didn't vote for her. You may like that option, right? Because we got thrown it in our face every single day during the last administration that she was awesome, right? You might have liked that option, but you didn't elect her. You didn't decide that that was going to be your primary candidate to go up against the Republican candidate. You just were told that. You want to talk about no kings? Seems to me like something a king would do, right? Let's talk about something else. Here's your no king examples, or your no king leaders. People on the Democratic side, right? Liberals. Chuck Grassley. He's been in office or been a part of government for 50 plus years. 50 years. Chuck Schumer, good old Chuck, 44 years. Mitch McConnell, 40. Nancy Pelosi, 38. Maxine Waters, 37. Bernie Sanders, 34. Trump has been president, including his last administration and including the year that's almost over with this administration. He's been president for almost 5 years total. 5 years he's been in office. Yet the grand total between these 6 lovely individuals is well over, or well close to, 300 years of power that they've wielded. You want to talk about no kings? Talk about those people. The only thing those people have managed to do, besides stay in power the longest, and I'll be honest with you, surprisingly, still continue to walk and talk at their age, the only thing they've been able to do successfully is fund their own pockets. They go in, they come out with a huge net worth that's way bigger than it should be, considering their salaries that they're on. So you want to talk about no kings? Talk about those things. Talk about the fact that there are so many people elected that, in my opinion, should have term limits, right? We shouldn't have to listen to Bernie Sanders for the last 30 plus years. That's older than I am. I'll be honest with you. I don't really want to listen to him anymore. Can you find somebody else? It's crazy. It baffles my mind. Once you convince people that freedom is the problem, once you convince them that the current situation is the reason why they're so suffering and just so overwhelmed and just going through trial after trial, once you convince them that that current system, our current system as a government, as a country, is the problem, you control everything, right? Prime example, COVID, 2020, right? 2019. For years, we were told 6 feet apart. If you want to go outside, you got to wear a mask. If you want to go on an airplane, you got to wear a mask. You want to go buy groceries, you got to wear a mask. If you want to have freedom to travel, if you want freedom to go back to work, you got to get a jab in your arm. Oh, and by the way, it comes with 20,000 boosters. That's what we were told for years. You're not an essential worker. What do you mean you have to work? Why are you going to work? Oh, you got a family to provide for? Well, let's check the list. You're not on there, pal. Go back home. Oh, and remember, social distance. Can't go visit your grandmother who's in the hospital? Sorry. When you take the narrative, when you control what is deemed the problem, that's when real kings show up. That's when people go, hey, I'll step up to the plate. Let me take this on. And that's when you have situations happen like the pandemic. The problem is not the current setup. The problem is, if you ask me, yeah, there's probably a lot of people in power that should not be. There's a lot of people, majority of Americans, that are just blindly being led, following, not a care in the world. They just want to eat, sleep, be happy. So the No Kings rally, yeah, it worked. Sure, it worked. But remember, it didn't work October 18th, 2025. It worked July 4th, 1776. I digress, right? Okay, technical glitches, we're back. Thanks for bearing with me. So let's talk about the government shutdown, okay? It happened October 1st at midnight, 12:01 a.m., while you were asleep. The government shut down, right? Government shut down. We had 40% of the federal workforce were either on unpaid leave or furloughed. Lots of different things happened, and it's affected, obviously, quite a few individuals and families. To me, it hasn't really affected me. So I'll be honest with you. The question that I always like to ask is, during these shutdowns, to me at least, it proves maybe this much government we don't really need, right? Maybe we don't need all of the programs that we were funding if we were able to just cut them just like that or stop them, right? So let's talk about why the government shutdown happened, right? So we all have heard of the one big beautiful bill, right? During the big beautiful bill, when it was signed into law, it took your favorite slasher movie to the next level, right? We're talking cuts, slashes, slicing and dicing. Our good old friend President Trump was able to cut out a lot of, in my opinion, bull crap that was being funded by us, the American taxpayer. Let's talk a little about what was cut, okay? The USAID, which, for those who don't know, the United States Agency for International Development, saw about 85% of its programs were terminated. Super, super sad for USAID. Insert sarcasm. I'm not sad for them at all. If you know anything about USAID, super corrupt, definitely not worth all of the money that we were giving them. It's just, it's not worth it, right? So that's what they got rid of. Okay, so we have that cut. We have a bunch of other programs cut. And so now the Democrats, they want all of those things back. They want to be able to add in a bunch of stuff that were cut. And so they said, okay, cool. We're not going to have any resolute bill or resolution to this potential government running out of funds. So we're going to shut down the government. So that's what they did. Now, here's the funny part of it. Okay. Here's the funny part of it. Let's find it. Got to open up all my notes. Like I said, we've got lots and lots and lots of notes. So let's open this right up. Okay. We have, in order for, let's remember this. Okay. Let me just find them. I think I've got my notes right here. Okay. In order for there to be a resolution, in order for there to be a government reopening, here's what needs to happen. Okay. So in order for this to be reopened and for us to be able to have our government back, this is what happens. Okay. So in a government shutdown, what does it mean? Okay. Appropriation bills or continuing resolution bills, CRs is what they're most commonly referred to. They're they fund federal agencies and programs. Okay. So if Congress, in this case, failed to pass the funding measures to start a new fiscal year, which October 1st is our fiscal year, then there's a lapse, right? That's why we have the government shutdown. Okay. So all these programs, they get furloughed, they get paused, they get stopped, halted, and anything that's going to be continued has to be essential, right? So why is it happening now? Well, there was a failure to be able to get enough votes for the CR, the continuing resolution. So here's what needs to happen. Obviously, in the Senate majority, we need 60 votes. 60 votes for it to happen. So oftentimes, in our case, you need all of one party to vote one way, and then you need some constituents on the other side of the aisle to vote another way. Okay? Well, here's what happened. We have now voted in the Senate. There has now been, as of yesterday, 11 votes. 11 votes, meaning they've left, they've come back, they've gotten back together, they've all gotten dressed up, and they've voted on whether or not they're going to pass a continuing resolution to open the government again. 11 times. I don't think that's getting through enough. 11 times it has not passed. Why? Well, because they're not able to get enough votes. So this is the 8th vote, right? In the 8th vote, 53 Republicans voted, or this is the current setup. We've got 53 Republicans, 45 Democrats, and 2 independents. Okay? So we obviously need 60 votes for this to pass. And when they voted the 8th time, we had a vote of 49 yeses and 45 noes. So what does that mean? Well, it means we reconvene another day and vote again, right? We have to try to go back in the aisles of Capitol Hill and talk with each other on how we're going to get this funded, how we're going to reopen the government. Well, good thing we've got lots of people that are trying to do this. So what were we able to get? Well, we were able to get a bunch of different things. We had, drum roll, I think this is so cool that they did this. We had Bernie Sanders and AOC go and do a live town hall meeting on CNN to take questions from Americans about what's happening and why it's happening for the government shutdown. What's going on? And AOC was asked, what is it going to take for the bill to be passed? What is it going to take to get the government opened up again? This is AOC's response. I think we need to see ink on paper. I think we need to see some legislation. I think we need to see votes, and I think we need to see things passed on the floor of the House, the Senate, and signed by President Trump. I don't accept, this is cool, she doesn't accept IOUs. I don't accept pinky promises. That's not the business I'm in. Which, I mean, we could get to on a different day if we really want to dive deep into AOC. Okay, so that's her list of demands. Now, everybody knows, if you've ever lived, that if you ever want to get anything done, what do? You give a list of demands, you slide it across the table, and you say, give me all of those demands or don't come talk to me at all. That always works, right? In all the movies that I've watched, in every single situation, it works 100% of the time, right? No, it doesn't work like that. In government, it doesn't work like that. In politics, it doesn't work like that at all, ever, right? I've got a toddler at home. It's not like, hey, dude, eat all your food and then we can go play. It's always cut, drag out. We've got to fight about something. You got to eat your food. You don't want your food. You don't like your food. And then finally we get to the point where both parties are just exhausted and we just say, okay, meet me in the middle, eat half of this, and you can call it a night. It doesn't work like that. But AOC and Bernie Sanders and the Democrats seem to think that that's what's going to happen. So, all right, well, let's look at their demand list. If that's really what they want to do, let's look at their demands. Okay? Now, here's a better way. Let's watch. Let's just go over this. We'll watch this. I've got a video that we need to watch that I think is pretty funny. Let's watch this. So, in order for there to be a CR passed and the government open back up again, they want Trump or the Republicans to remit some of the budget cuts that were made during the Big Beautiful Bill. Let's listen to a few of those. They would like back, right? Remember, they want back this money, okay? They want back $3 million to send to Zambia for vasectomies and circumcisions. Cool. They want $3.6 million for pastry cooking classes and dance classes for male prostitutes in Haiti. Yeah, done. Sounds pretty America first to me. They want 24.6. 2.4 would be a lot better. 24.6 million to climate resilience in Honduras. They want 13.4 million to civic engagement in Zimbabwe. 3.9 million to LGBTQI plus democracy grants in the Balkans. They want 2.9 million to desert to get rid of desert locusts in Africa. They want 2 million to organize or for organizing for feminist democratic principles in Africa. That's what they want. I mean, in a nutshell, there's probably plenty more that AOC has on that sticky note that she slid across the table to Republicans, but that's what they want. They want to be able to get, in total, they want $5 billion towards foreign spending. Foreign spending. These are elected officials by us, right? I didn't vote for AOC. I hope and pray you didn't. Elected officials by we the people to go to Capitol Hill, to go to Washington, D.C., the cesspool that it is, and to be able to speak on our behalf, to be able to fund programs that help Americans. And they, in order to open back our government that we the people control, they want $5 billion in foreign spending. And it's not like this is something I had to do a whole deciphering, right? I didn't have to go through and fish through a bunch of files, do a bunch of zodiac, clues or puzzles to find this out. You can just search this, chat GPT it for all I care. They want to spend $5 billion on foreign spending and foreign programs in order for the government to be reopened. But these are the people that don't like kings, right? These are the people that don't want us to have a king. Okay, cool. All right, we won't have that. But you then in turn want to hold our government hostage in order to then fund your weird, perverse, delusional ideas and programs in Zambia, Africa, Haiti, Honduras, the Balkans. The list goes on and on. You want to fund all of these cool things while millions of taxpayers here in the United States are struggling to, live lives. I saw something today. I posted it today on my Instagram. In order for you to survive in these states in America, you have to have this much amount of income for an individual or this much for a family. I live in Utah. It's like $220,000 that you have to make annually to live comfortably as a family of 4. Cool. Do you think that's easy for us to do? You think paying taxes this time of the year is easy for us to do when we know where our taxes are going towards? When you specifically outright say, hey, not only do we want to fund these programs, we also want to, hey, small tidbit, asterisk, we want to give free healthcare to illegal immigrants. The people that we ushered in last administration at an astounding rate, in part of my French, ungodly amount of people came across our southern border and other borders, and you want to give those people free health care? And we say here in Utah, okay, we don't see a lot of that, right? That's what you might think. Well, you're wrong. Here are the current states in the United States that have state-funded health coverage programs for undocumented immigrants to cover people regardless of immigration status. California, no surprise. New York, no. Illinois, Washington, New Jersey, Oregon, Massachusetts, Colorado. None of those should surprise you. Utah. Connecticut, Maine, Rhode Island, Vermont. We have state-funded programs here in Utah to help give illegal immigrants health care. And add it to the list. That's exactly what the Democrats want in order to reopen the government. We want to help fund healthcare, free healthcare to illegal immigrants. Now, let's put this all into context, okay? Because we've thrown out some big numbers, right? 24.6 million, 13.4 million, right? Total of $5 billion to fund foreign spending in order to open up the government. Well, let's talk about what that means for you, what that means for me. Let's give each other some context. Let me show you this. Bear with me. Let's watch this video.
Looked at the proposal from the Democrats of what they're requiring to be able to reopen the government. If you haven't, which probably is true for most of you, let me just let you know that the Democrats, they want an additional $5 billion of spending, not for Americans. Like, they are requiring $5 billion additional dollars to go towards foreign spending that doesn't help Americans in order to open the American government back up. Oh, and that includes...
Cool, right? Now, that's important to remember. $5 billion in foreign spending to help foreigners, not Americans. Remember that, just in case I haven't hit the nail on the head enough.
$25 million to Honduras for climate resiliency. That's really important for them to get before they open up the government. They want $5 million for LGBTQ democracy grants in the Balkans, which, let's be real, most of you liberals don't even know where the fuck that is. And they want $2 million for feminist democratic principles in Africa. And here's something I want you to think about when it comes to the government spending money. Don't think about it in terms of $1 million. No, think about it that $1 million is the total tax contribution of 75 Americans. Every $1 million the government spends is the tax contributions of 75 average Americans. So when they spend $10 million, what they're actually spending is the total tax contribution of 750 Americans. Yeah, so stop thinking about it in dollars and start thinking about it in the taxes you pay. Have y'all actually...
Okay, cool. Let's bring it on home. For every $1 million that they spend, right? And this is both sides of the aisle. I don't care if you're left, right, middle. I don't care. Both sides, $1 million that is spent in our government. That is the contributions, taxable contributions of 75 Americans. Individuals. Okay. Let's do the math out. Okay. For the grand total of $5 billion that they want in order to open up the government, that would equal the tax contributions total of 375,000 Americans. All of your taxes, right? Which I got hit with my tax bill, pretty good amount, right? Not money that I want to pay gladly, freely. We can talk about that on another episode. Taxes. 375,000 Americans, their taxes are going to go towards this $5 billion that they want. Okay, cool. Well, let's find out. We've got some climate change or climate resistant that we need to, resilience that we need to fund in Honduras. Okay, how many is that going to be for us? You got 1,800 Americans are going to pay for that if they get it. I know you're all curious about, how many pastry cooking classes, and, you're really worried about dance classes for, prostitutes, male prostitutes in Haiti. Well, cool. How many Americans are going to have to pay for that? 270. 270 Americans, their taxes are going to go towards funding that if the Democrats get what they want. The government shutdown may have affected you. It hasn't affected me much. I'm very blessed and grateful, and I completely understand that. I hope it hasn't affected you that much, and I don't think it has. But think about that. There are people right now that are controlling our government that are saying whether or not they get to have it opened, whether or not we get to have it back, they're holding it hostage and saying, in order for it to open, we need $5 billion of what was cut during the Big Beautiful Bill or from the Big Beautiful Bill. We need that back. Then we can chat about opening the government again. You want to talk about kings and no kings? First off, the irony is there are kings in our government. There are people who think they control everything. They're a problem. Don't get me wrong. I don't like them. And there are people on both sides of the political aisle that I think are very wrong. You want to talk about no kings? Let's talk about the Democrats who are holding our government hostage. Seem very king-like. You don't get this, right? You don't get your porridge for the day unless the hay field's picked and the horses are tended to and the moat around my castle is dug deep enough so that I can fill it with water and alligators. That's a problem. That's a problem. So let it be known. I'll go on record, right? This is my record. I don't care how long it takes to open the government. I don't. As long as these programs and $5 billion worth of foreign spending never sees the light of day. Doesn't happen. Write an email in, right, to your Utah senators. Make sure that they continue to not vote for that. Make sure that which they have, right? Republicans have offered continuing resolution bills to be signed, meaning let's just agree to open the government. We can talk about these things later, but what are they hit with? Well, they're hit with AOC's pointless, delusional, I don't take IOUs. I don't take down the road promises. Why don't you just open the government again? Open the government, realize that, hey, you live in America. You probably should focus on American lives first. And if you really are that worried about funding male prostitute cooking classes in Haiti, AOC, move to Haiti. Teach them your cool dance moves. Teach them how to cook. You're really worried about LGBTQI plus democracy grants in the Balkans. I'll pay for your flight to get to the Balkans so that you can be able to help them with whatever the heck that is. It's time that we put America first. And it's time that we expect our elected officials to put us as Americans first. Do you know how much aid to the American people we could provide with $5 billion? Instead, we have elected officials that are trying to spend that on foreign spending, foreign programs. Now, in closing, because I don't have a much more thoughts that I could give and much more opinions than I haven't already given, I want it to be clear. In this country, we do have a king. So I retract what I said early on when I said we no longer have a king. We do have a king. It's Jesus Christ. And it's time that we, the American people, realize that that's the truth. Christ is our king, and this is a country that is divinely set aside to be amazing, to be something that we can all stand for, stand up with, and stand against anyone that wants to try to take it down, both foreign and domestic. It's time to wake up. Now, in lighter news, we're getting things started. We're getting a lot more juices flowing. Hopefully a newer setup, better camera, better audio, right? So I appreciate you tuning in. We're going to talk again here soon. We've got some other stuff that we need to address. So hopefully you come on back. Remember, give it a like, subscribe, share, comment. Any engagement helps as we try to get this off the ground. Because remember, this is truly a grassroots podcast. George Soros isn't behind the camera telling me what to say and giving me checks. This is just all me. So I appreciate you guys being here. Remember, the future is built by us because we are the future. Take care.